now. Just check that's it's fine. Okay, doke, you ready to go, man? Okay. Hi guys, Starky R here. We're going to do a rugby podcast. Been a while since I've done a podcast with this lad from Wales, Brandon from BS Rugby. How you doing, man?
Yeah, really good. Good to be back on the channel, mate. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, good to have you on. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, has been, yeah.
I think we're due to do a couple at the end of last season or before the World Cup, but just for various reasons didn't happen. So, but hey ho, such is life. Things get in the way. Yaddy daddy da. But yeah, let's just crack on and talk about the Rugby World Cup. How you think it's been going so far, man?
It's been a great World Cup. We were talking off air. Some teams have really improved over the past 4 years. Teams that maybe would be considered to be minnows, getting battered, but this time have really put in a performance in many different games. Some teams haven't turned up, and we'll get into that later. Not mentioning any team, Scotland. Sorry, got a chesty cough. And we've seen some great games as well. We've seen the All Blacks tearing it up in some games, Springboks putting the challenge, Wales coming good, Ireland maybe not so good. So far it's been a brilliant tournament and really enjoyable to watch. Not sure about the early mornings, but otherwise it's been really good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the early mornings. Yeah, I agree with you there. It's been a few of the like 5:45 ones I've missed, and for whatever reason I'm a late sleeper, but. Anyway, yeah, like I said, team's not so good. I've done 5 videos on that, so we don't need to cover that too much. But no. We'll talk about Wales first of all. It's been going all right for you so far. A bit patchy in all your games, to be fair. I thought the second half against Georgia, you definitely took your foot off the pace after you went. Was it 26-8 up against Australia? Yeah, took your foot off the pace a bit there, and against Fiji started a bit slowly, and against Uruguay you got the job done, but you didn't really get going at all. But I mean, I know I'm sounding like from a negative point of view a bit, but at the same time you're just showing how to get the job done, and that's what counts at a World Cup. If you're not always performing at 100%, but as long as you're getting the job done, getting the results, which is what Wales are doing. So you must be chuffed enough with that.
Yeah, definitely. Happy 4 wins from 4. You can't complain. Top the pool, which means we avoid England, which then we'll go on to beat them in the semi-finals, so it's okay. But yeah, happy with the wins. Obviously, the performances, as you said, have been up and down. Georgia, first half, we were brilliant. We played really good rugby. Jonathan Davis had the half of his life. Then against Australia, yeah, that was pretty nervy near the end.
I think that has to be the game of the World Cup, in my opinion. I think that's been the best game so far. But yeah, Wales. Because I thought Wales were brilliant until they were 26-8 up, and then I think it was a mixed bag of Wales just becoming a little bit sloppy, and Australia actually finally getting their foothold in the game because they scored a couple of cracking tries from that. So but overall, I think Wales. We'll get on to the quarterfinals in a bit, but I think Wales can be fairly satisfied with the job done, like say. So yeah, what other teams do you want to talk about? Should we go through the home nations? Ireland, how do you think?
Ireland's a strange one, isn't it? Against Scotland, they played really well. We'll get on to Scotland in a bit. Scotland were not at the races of that day, but Ireland did
to put it politely.
Pretty well. Samoa and Russia were wins, and you'd expect that. But then against Japan, I didn't get to see the whole game because I was at work, unfortunately. But I don't know, did they underestimate Japan? Did they think that their physical presence would be able to win the game? Or was Japan just that much better? It seems like Ireland maybe peaked a year ago, and now that they're not quite at the level that they are. Although I think they'd take a quarter-final against New Zealand, because they know they can beat New Zealand. They've done it over the past few years, and there'll be that psychological edge for them, although they're not at the same form they were maybe 2 years ago, compared to this time now at the World Cup, but a very patchy World Cup for them. I don't think Sexton or Murray have really shown what they're capable of. We haven't seen Stockdale all that much either. But yeah, maybe the quarterfinals is where they'll come out firing. Who knows?
I slightly disagree with you on the Murray and Sexton, because I thought against Samoa they did start to come good and show what they're capable of. Against Japan, I think you're right in that they did underestimate them a bit. And you can tell that the way they played. I mean, they were so sloppy in some of their plays in the second half. Like there was a line out they had in Japan's 22 that they messed up, and Japan cleared their lines. And then what led to Japan's try was just a simple Chris Fowl running into his own man, an accidental offside, and gave Japan the scrum, which they worked the ball wide and scored the try from. So it's just little things like that. They were just like, which at that level you'd expect a team of Ireland's quality to be, as detailed the coach as Joe Schmidt is, to be like nailing 9 times out of 10. And then when Japan got in front, they just looked lost. They just didn't have an answer to Japan's defence. They didn't look like they had a plan B outside of just constantly chunking the ball up through the forwards. And then when that wasn't working, they just seemed to panic. It was almost like, it reminded me a wee bit of the France-New Zealand 99 semi-final. Don't know if you remember that match. In my opinion, one of the greatest games of all time. When France took the lead in that game, New Zealand just looked shell-shocked and they panicked like they didn't know what was happening. I thought similar with Ireland. But I thought against Samoa they were starting to come good again. I watched their game against Russia and I was quite bored with them. And we don't need to talk about the game against Scotland, but but in the first half against us they were good. They physically really took it to us. Defensively, they worked us out to a T as well. But overall, I think I agree with you. I think with regards to them facing New Zealand, I think considering they've beaten New Zealand twice, they should have some confidence going into that game. So I think, but we'll see what happens. I do think it'll be a better New Zealand than the one they played in the last two times, though. And I think, we'll like I say, we'll get into that later when we talk about the quarterfinals. But what about how you think England have done so far?
England's a strange one, I think. I don't think they've really been tested so far. The USA, as we mentioned before recording, have been poor, considering all the developments they've had with MLR, the Sevens side doing well. They didn't turn up at all. Tonga showed flashes of what they could do, probably should have beaten France and also beat USA pretty comfortably. And then, obviously, they didn't play France, and that would probably be the biggest test in the pool, because against Argentina got a red card, and that straight away kills the game.
What did you think of that red card anyway? Because I thought it was a fair enough one.
Yeah, I think it is fair, and I think, to be honest, the refs have done pretty well at this World Cup. Obviously, World Rugby have got this.
Don't tell that to France or Ireland, or Argentina or Ireland, I should say.
I generally think the reffing has been pretty good. They've what I've really liked is that the refs have really spoken through with the team. I've said, okay, these are the facts. This is what we can see. This is how dangerous it is, and this is what it results. And they go through the process. They follow the protocols, and they do it properly. Not this is what I think I can see, and this is what he's trying to do. They go through the protocols. Everyone knows what's going on, and at the end of the day, they come to a conclusion and they back that up. And I think it's been pretty good on the whole. I think Wayne Barnes, even though he's English and an English ref,
he's been good, I think, yeah.
He's been very, very good. I think he's been one of the best. And the way he just talks to with the Timo, and it's so helpful for us at home to really understand what they're trying to look for.
Aye, I mean, but there is a reason for the factual way they're speaking about it, is because of the way World Rugby have imposed this directive over the summer. And I know myself because I sat through a refs meeting pre-season. So it is like I said, they are trying to make sure the refs go by the facts and not what their opinion is. Trying to take out the sort of emotion of, okay, this has happened, but I can empathise with why this has happened, and just calling it as it is, which is fair enough and works well. But I mean, with regards to some of the decisions, though, I mean, I get this whole. I fully understand and get this whole emphasis on anything above the tops of the shoulders, around the head. You're starting at red card, and then you're going down from there, like depending on situations that, like an example of that would be if a high tackle happens and it just starts below the tops of the shoulder and then slips up. A bit more empathy in those sort of things. But I also think it can be open to abuse. Like if you watch the Ireland Samoa game, there's one bit where Samoa got the yellow card, pardon me, and Jacob Stockdale had clearly ducked in towards the Samoan hooker's shoulder, and then the shoulder it hit with a fair bit of force, to be fair. So it was probably the right call, given the yellow card. But at the same time, it's open to abuse with the way Stockdale was more ducking into it, which I don't like seeing, because I don't think that's in the spirit of the game. Aki's one was, I think, probably right, but at the same time, I can also empathise with the folk who might be a bit aggrieved at that, but it's the way the directives and the protocols are now for referees, so they have to follow it, so I don't really blame the referees too much in that regard. But there have been things they've missed, like the South African-New Zealand game. Jerome Garcia missed a couple of clangers, not just from New Zealand though. Before South Africa say anything, there was one really bad tackle by Peter Steph du Toit in that game that he missed as well. I mean, about as bad as the one he missed in Kieran Reid, just went round the neck of somebody. So yeah, I mean, I think the standard referee has been all right. I mean, in terms of the information they're giving us, but also like I think there needs to be a higher standard from assistant referees as well, just with regards to mainly with regards to offsides. I think because there's been a bit of an inconsistent seeing that one, and also TMOs with foul play, I think need to be a wee bit more on it, because I know myself refereeing, you've got 101 things to look at. You're not going to see everything that happens, and you're not going to get it right all the time. So if you've got your assistants helping you, it's always a lot better. And that's but I mean, obviously, and you need to be doing a good job yourself, but you do need, at that level, I think it's good that they do have the help they do, and they should do, but I do think that the AR and TMOs do need to be making sure they're doing their jobs in that regard a lot more, in my view.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that what we want as rugby fans is as much consistency as possible. It's never possible to be 100% consistent. Referees are humans at the end of the day. They are going to make mistakes, but I do really like this process of going through the facts, saying this is what we can see. We're starting out at red. Is there any reason why I can't award the red card? Give the red card, sorry. So I really like that, and I think on the whole the refs have done a good job. And they've always most refs try to get the game to be an attacking game, free-flowing game. That's what we want to see as fans at the end of the day. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But also safety is paramount in making sure that you're reffing the laws properly as well. With regards to, we were speaking just before we came on about how the minnow nations are done, and I think it's another step up for all of them. I don't consider Japan to be a minnow nation anymore with how they're playing, but I think certainly like the likes of Namibia haven't disgraced themselves. Likes of Uruguay especially, they've done really well. So, what are your thoughts on how the minnows are done? The minnow nation?
Yeah. Uruguay are the standout team, beating Fiji, competitive to an extent against Wales and Australia. Georgia, you could sense it was 4 days after that Fiji game. The emotion of that game, the physical nature of that game was a little bit too much for them. But they seemed organised. They seemed well drilled. The fly half was controlling the games at different points, and he was a consistent goal kicker, which always helps.
Yeah.
Two teams maybe a little bit disappointed with, the US and Canada.
Yeah,
I don't think they did all that much. After all the hype of what's happening in the USA with MLR and different things like that, they haven't really lived up to the bill. But there's talk about them hosting the World Cup in 2027, which I think would help grow the game over there. I'm
personally, if regards to them hosting it, because they've got fantastic stadiums over there, I think okay, but with regards to them having a hope of getting through, I don't think so, because at the time Japan won the bid to host this one, there was signs that they were a nation actually starting to climb the ladder a bit. After seeing USA this World Cup, I'm not convinced that they are ready for hosting it yet. And as you say, Canada's actually, they've been probably the most disappointing of all the teams at the World Cup because their rugby just seems to have. Because I remember at the last World Cup there was a couple of games they made really competitive and they really played some good rugby at times, even though they didn't win any games. But this one they just seemed to be non-existent, and it's amazing to think that. Pardon me. In 1991, they were in the quarterfinals at one stage, and in '95 they only lost 20-0 to South Africa, and they were just losing. And now they're just being thumped by, 60s and 70s. Now it's
Well, against New Zealand, I know it's New Zealand, so you have to take that into consideration. But in that first half, every time New Zealand got the ball, you thought they were going to score. Mm-hmm. And that's just how it was. And Canada, fair play in the second half, came out, had a bit more discipline, a bit more organisation in defence. But yeah, just no progress really. And you felt going into every game that they were going to lose it. Maybe the Namibia-Canada game would have been an interesting game. Both teams would have lost all games so far. They knew that going into the tournament, and it would have been the game to see who doesn't finish bottom, essentially. And both teams would have gone for it, both evenly matched teams. Maybe you'd even say Namibia are better than Canada at the minute. Namibia put in a good performance against Italy, and they didn't disgrace themselves at all.
I don't know. Like, I still think Canada would still maybe just in general just pip them a bit, but that game didn't go ahead, so we'll never know. I want to actually ask you about that. What you think? Because obviously with the typhoon that happened, we have to put that into perspective. It was perfectly understandable why the games didn't go ahead, but it's something I think World Rugby do need to look into the future, like with regards to cancelling games altogether. Because I've made my feelings clear on social media about this. I personally am against it. I'd like to see if there was an opportunity to either postpone or move stadium. I understand there's flaws with them as well, but what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I heard something about reorganising games, that the backup plan for a lot of the games that would have been cancelled was to have the game like 20 miles away in like another stadium. It's only 20 miles away. And the fact that the typhoon was like 500 miles wide or something like that, it's just not right. It just wouldn't work. So they should have really thought about it. And there's obviously, there's a week until from the last pool game until the start of the quarterfinals. Surely they could have found a way. Namibia Canada doesn't affect the quarterfinals. It just doesn't, because they're not going to qualify. They're not going to get through. It's an opportunity for those nations to get a win at a World Cup, for their fans to enjoy a win, to enjoy a game that is competitive, and also for the neutrals. It's an opportunity to see two teams play against each other who we never really see play. So World Rugby should have thought about it more, but obviously people's safety, and obviously you've got to remember the people who lost their lives, sadly.
There are
more important things than rugby.
I was sorry to interrupt. I was just going to make clear that obviously, we are just talking about rugby and that, those affected the typhoon, that's the bigger picture. Yeah. I just want to stress that we're both not trying to take anything away from that, but with regards to rugby, they certainly, I think, could have moved stadium, or, I understand there's like flaws of that with travelling and, financial stuff and all this stuff. I don't really want to get into the ins and outs of, because it's quite complicated, but yeah, just along those lines, I think it's something that could have worked better. And it was a bit, because the thing is, all the nations signed up for it, so it was a bit naive. Yeah. I'd say in that regard. But it's also rules that have been in place since 1987, so it's maybe something that needs looked at more. Because of course, 1987, it was still the amateur era when the World Cup started. So it's just something the World Rugby needs to look into more.
Yeah. So what about your team, Scotland? Where do we begin?
I've made 5 videos about it. Shite against Ireland, better against Samoa, did the job against Russia, and mixed bag against Japan. So even though we only really got going against Japan when we were 28-7 down, and to be fair, I suppose for yourself, if you're a neutral, you would have enjoyed that match immensely. So. I'm happy for you there, but with regards to, I'm wanting my team to win. I want my team to do well, so it's a bit of a kick in the balls, to be honest with you, Brandon.
In the first half, Scotland weren't great, but you got to give credit to
Oh
Japan.
yeah, yeah.
Japan were higher,
Uh,
and I said before we went on live, I said that Japan would probably give any team in the world a good game in that first
mhm.
half. Not saying they beat the All Blacks or anything like that, but I think you mentioned the second try it was. I don't think anyone would have stopped that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, Japan, full credit to them.
yeah. And if you want to know my detailed thoughts on that, there is a video of the match reaction on the channel. So, um, yeah, it would kind of pay me to go through it all again. But regards to, I mean, I've no complaints about the result. I think Japan deserved to win, and as much as I think Eddie Jones is a bit of a dick with his comments saying, "Oh, we can't complain, Typhoon season, we had to do business," but he is right in the regard it was the Ireland game that really killed us, just how we didn't turn up at all, and you just think, it's a Rugby World Cup. I mean, because I wasn't expecting us to beat Ireland. I'll be totally honest about that. I mean, I don't mind losing, but it was just the way we were so meek. We didn't impose ourselves in the game at all, and Ireland just more or less took us to the cleaners, and I was just absolutely,
Mm.
gut wrenching, and the fact is, like, it's not the first time we've had this kind of performance in the past couple of years as well. It's really, if we're wanting our rugby to get better, those sort of performances. I mean, like I said, losing fine, but those sort of performances need to be cut out completely because even like teams like even when Wales lose, you can tell at least there's like a discipline and a structure there, and they're mentally they're at least on it for majority of the game. But I mean, even if they lose and don't play well, they're at least mentally on it and have some organisation. Whereas we just seem to fall to pieces altogether, which really kind of infuriates me, to be honest.
Yeah, against Ireland, you just didn't come out of the blocks. You didn't get any quick ball. Finn Russell couldn't do his magic. Stuart Hogg wasn't getting the ball.
Mm.
It was a frustrating game, and I don't think Ireland played that amazing. I just think Scotland were that poor.
Yeah.
But yeah, against Japan, yeah, second half was good from you. You showed what you could do, but it was too little, too late. I don't know if you've heard about the Japanese winger Fukuoka, the guy who scored the try. He's retiring after the World
Is he
Cup.
really?
He's only 29. He's going to continue doing sevens until 2020, so he'll be 30 by then. And then he's going to train to become a doctor.
Oh well, good luck to him. I didn't.
What? Why? You're on top of the world.
Well,
I don't get it.
well, it could be Japan's Jamie Roberts. So,
Yeah.
but no, good luck. Good luck to him if that's what he wants to do. But no, I mean, great player to be fair to him. But I think before we get on to the quarterfinals, we should talk briefly about Japan, the host nation, how they've played, and also how they've hosted the World Cup. Typhoon aside, we'll put the Typhoon thing aside for this part. What are your thoughts there?
I think they've been brilliant hosts. Japanese culture is all about being very welcoming people in, hosting them, and every team has spoken about how well they've been hosted, how much they've been welcomed into the country and the culture, how fans, I don't know if you saw that video for Wales training session, their first training session, where 15,000 people turned up to the stadium singing My Home Life and Had There, and singing Land, and singing all the different hymns and all these different things. Yeah. Just the welcoming has been incredible. They know how to put on a show, and yeah, it's just been great for Japan. So first World Cup in Asia, Japan, as you said, have been a rising nation in rugby, and really ever since 2015 they've really been pushing the top teams, and now it seems like this World Cup could be the spark for a nation really to grab onto rugby, because football isn't that big over there. Obviously they got sumo wrestling, but rugby could be the big sport to grow over there over the next few years.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, after this World Cup, it has to. I mean, even if they don't get to the semi-finals, which, again, we'll get on to soon, I think they're just how they've played and just how they've impacted the tournament, how they've made everyone in the world of rugby, not just Japanese people, actually sit up and take notice and think, wow, this is a serious team. World Rugby has to pay attention. I mean, they did with Argentina after the 2007 World Cup and how well Argentina did there. They have to do similar with Japan and making sure that they've got the facilities in place to become a top nation. maybe I mean I think because I think they could get into the Rugby Championship as well, with and maybe because there was talks of a Super Six kind of like the Rugby Championship becoming a six nation for the Southern Hemisphere kind of thing, and Japan certainly deserve to be part of that based on this World Cup.
There's no point Japan playing a game against Singapore, beating them 140-0 because they don't learn anything. There's no test. It's easy playing against Thailand or China. They need to be tested against the top teams in the world. I think they could beat Argentina. Right now, they're probably better than Argentina. Yeah. They could beat Argentina. They will give South Africa a good game. And they've obviously shown that they can beat Ireland, who are world number one, whatever that means, obviously. And they've beaten Scotland, who back in April, March, April time, they drew with England at Twickenham, playing incredible rugby at times. So they've shown that they can play against the big team and put in a performance. The only problem with that then is it raises a question about Georgia being part of the Six Nations. I don't think Georgia really are there yet. I don't really know.
I'd say like with regards to playoff actually. I mean, I'm starting to lean more in favour of the playoff, and they could have something similar in the Rugby Championship possibly. But I mean that's kind of a conversation for another day. I think it's still we're still a few years away from that yet. But it's also interesting, like just to say like how, because of course they're hosting the World Cup. They're the World Cup hosts. They've had 3 years to prepare for this, and this has been their main goal for 3 years. And you just wonder if they, outside of Japan, how they would do, whether they would cope with it as well. I mean, that has to come into the equation as well. And again, the only way you can really know that, I think, is to give them more games outside of Japan. I mean. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I was a bit sceptical about them coming into this World Cup because I thought like England beat them fairly convincingly last November, was it? I think, and South Africa beat them fairly convincingly in the warm-up games. But they've sure proved me wrong there and proved they're actually a really good rugby team. So fair play to them.
Yeah, and as you say about playing at home, I think that's a huge advantage. We've seen the conditions, how humid it is, how slippy the ball is at times. They're used to that, you know. A lot of their players play for the Sunwolves, who are actually on doing that well at the minute. I want to get your thoughts on the Japanese side itself. They're not Japanese, a lot of them, in many aspects. Personally, I haven't got a problem with it. If you play in a nation for 3 years, why can't Japan do that? We see Wales do it, New Zealand do it all the time with the Pacific Nations players. Scotland have a few.
We're the worst for it, mate. We're the worst for it. So, yeah. But yeah, no, I don't take issue with that. Although I will say I am in favour of the fight because it's at the moment it's changing next year from next summer to 5-year rule. And I'm in favour of that because mainly I want to see, I mean, I'm sure you'd be the same with Wales. I want to see like focus for future Scottish internationals to be mainly from Scotland, to be, you know, coming up through the grassroots, etc. And then going on to be good players for Scotland. I mean, I don't have a problem with, you know, if there's anyone from New Zealand who has a Scottish heritage and they come play for us, or if they do go through the future 5-year rule, I wouldn't have a big problem with that. But I do want the main focus to be, you know, getting the best players for Scotland from Scotland. And I'm sure any nation would be thinking the same. I'm sure you think the same with Wales as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Aye. And and like I said, I mean, I don't see any issue with that. But you know, with regards to Japan, I mean, I'm not going to criticise them for that because us Scots have been the worst for it for ages. So I won't say too much with regards to criticism there. But do you want to go on to the quarterfinals now?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, first up, England against Australia. How do you think that's going to go?
I can only really see one winner here, to be honest. Unfortunately, it's going to be England. I don't think Australia have been particularly amazing against Wales in the second half. They did come out and score some great tries. I think that the decision to play Genya at 9 is a good decision. When he's come off the bench for Australia, I think he's made a difference. it's going to be interesting with Australia because we know what England are going to do. England are going to use their power. They put Slade at 12, Farrell at 10, so obviously going for a physical team. Tuolangi will look to get over the gain line. Big Pack, Billy Vunipola, Maka Vunipola's back for this one. They're going to try and dominate physically. Their scrum, their line out, driving maul. It's going to be based about power, discipline, and organisation. And that's what England are going to bring against Australia. If Australia's defence can deal with that and they can counter-attack by using their fullback, Curtly Beale, on his day, attacking-wise, can be world-class. Yet sometimes he's not quite at it. I personally can only see England winning this one by about 10 points, maybe. It could be more. But it's all about that start. If England start strongly, score early, I think it's going to be very difficult for Australia.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think a key area for the Aussies where they can give England a tough time is the breakdown, because they've got, with Hooper and Pocock, I'd say they're better jacklers than Curry and Underhill are in the back row. I think that's where Australia could target them a bit, especially in defence. I think Australia are going to have to be very aggressive there at the breakdown, because if they give England enough time and enough space, and if England get lots of quick ball and end up going to the wings, then obviously you've got the flyers out there who can finish things off. And I think the scrum, England, I think, will be fairly on top there. I can't see Australia doing one over them. I think if Australia can get parity in the scrums, they'll give themselves more of a chance. But again, because this Australian team, you just go through the team. I mean, I like to compare it a bit to Australia teams in the past, and you think the teams in the past, even like 2015, you go through the team and think, whoa, there's a good player, there's a good player. That would be like maybe in a World 15, because I think you do, for most good teams, you need about 7 or 8 players who'd be in a World 15 in their side, and I just don't see that much with this Australia team. I see like Pocock and maybe Hooper, and that's honestly about it. I mean, they've got some good players. I mean, that guy they've picked at 13, Pitaina, is that his name? Jordan. He looks like a good prospect for them, but again, it's because he's so inexperienced. I think this is going to be a massive step up for him, and I don't know how he's going to handle it. So yeah, I think actually Australia will get a couple of good tries, because they do have that ability in World Cups, when the pressure's on, to turn it on, and sometimes it can be just out of nowhere and they just flip the switch and something happens. And I think they will have purple patches in the match, but I think overall England will just be a bit too much for them. And worth noting as well that Australia haven't beaten England since Eddie Jones took charge of England, and since the 2015 World Cup, so I think that's going to count in favour of England as well, as much as it pains me to say.
Yeah, but there's always that psychological thing, isn't there? Australia knocking England out of the World Cup in 2015. Yeah. Fingers crossed. That's what I'm saying. Fingers crossed.
Another big issue with Australia this World Cup has been their discipline. And because they've had 4 yellow cards in 4 games, or five yellow cards, something like that. And Michael Cheika just doesn't help that at all by what he says in press conferences, saying like, "Oh, I don't know what the rules are anymore." And it's like, and I just think, Michael, it's pretty simple. Like, make sure your players, when they're going into contact, are not swinging the arm, or they're not, they're not going in and they're not charging people off the ball, etc. It's not all that hard. And if you're going into a ruck, you make sure, because it's never been the laws that you go in swinging your arm like that. You have to go in properly and make sure you clear it out properly. Yeah. So, if he's saying he doesn't know the rules anymore, then that's not helpful in my opinion.
Yeah, he's not really the same psychological genius as Gatland is or Eddie Jones is with what they say. I just think that sometimes he comes out with stupid stuff which just doesn't help the team, doesn't give the team confidence at all. And, just a bit of an irrational man. Australia's discipline hasn't been great. I think it was Hooper on Bigger in the World Cup. I think Hooper was very lucky to get away with that.
Definitely.
And but again, they've been unlucky. The penalty that they conceded, I think it was Kuridrani on bigger again, maybe.
Oh no, was that?
Where he lifted the arm?
Oh, was that Karevion Patchell where?
Yes, Karevion Patchell. Sorry,
I thought it was a. Yeah, sorry, I was just.
Quite harsh.
Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, it's quite harsh, I thought.
I mean, I think, well, given the directives the referees have to go for now, I can understand why it was a penalty at most. But at the same time, I think also Patchell, he kind of brought that on himself a bit because it kind of went there and then slid up. So, and Patchell, the way you look at his tackle, he could have gone lower. So, in some ways, he brought it on himself. But in other ways, I think it was a wee bit reckless from Karevi because you have to lead with the hand if you're going for a handoff. And if you're going in like that, you're running the risk of giving the penalty away. So, it's just one of those things where I think like players have to learn to be a bit more precise these days. But yeah, I can understand why folk would say that was harsh. But yeah. So, anything else to say in Australia and England? I think we're both agreement England are probably going to win this.
For me, England by 10. How much are you saying?
England by 7. Because as I said, I think Australia will have their purple patch at some point in the game, but I don't think it'll be like against Wales. I don't think it'll be enough to get them the win. I think England will just have a bit too much. So yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Right, on to tasty one now. Possibly the tastiest one of the quarterfinals. New Zealand against Ireland.
I mean, we all know the Irish love playing against New Zealand recently. Got that win in Chicago. Got that 2 wins in Dublin, is it now?
One win in Dublin, one in Chicago.
One, sorry. So they've got that psychological edge. They know that they can beat New Zealand. Ireland, as we've said, have been hit and miss throughout the pool stages, have shown really good glimpses against Samoa and Scotland, and then against Japan just seem to underestimate what the Japanese could do. New Zealand, what really impressed me against South Africa was South Africa dominated for that 10-15 minutes in the first half, and then just like that, New Zealand just turn it on, offloading beautiful play and getting try after try. I'm still not convinced about the Moanga and Barrett at 15. I'd rather Barrett at 10. That's personally my preference, although both of them still do pretty well.
We're going to disagree there because I think that's worked pretty well so far. Okay. I think they've actually looked pretty good together. I think it's and Moanga is definitely a better goal kicker than Barrett is. I think I think Barrett is a bit better suited to 15 from an attacking sense because he's got a bit. Because at 10, he's not just about attacking, he's got to control everything and marshal things around him, and he hasn't got as much space to work what he can do. Whereas at fullback, he's got a bit more space to step properly and to sort of be a bit more of a nightmare for defenders. So yeah.
Yeah, I expect this game will be a close one. I think that, again, the start of the game is so important. If Ireland, I think Ireland will look to take the points when they get opportunities because you can never really fall behind the All Blacks and expect to come back in the game. It is really about, can Ireland turn it on? Can they do it? Because they just haven't been there, really. New Zealand, we just know how good they are and what they can do. So, it really is about who turns up on the day. This Irish team can beat New Zealand, but I don't think they're the same team that they were a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. They won the Grand Slam. We dispatched them pretty comfortably in the Six Nations. And yeah, it's going to be a tight one, this one, I think. Yeah. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the Ireland team have been worked out a bit more. And to be honest, I think this has actually been a kind of, in some ways, recurring problem with them under Joe Schmidt. It's just in 2018 they seemed to get the mix right a bit better, but now it's come back in the Six Nations against England and Wales. Both England and Wales defences were just all over them, and they just didn't seem to have an answer to it. It was the same in the group against Japan; they didn't have an answer. So I'd say if New Zealand can defend like Wales or England did in the Six Nations and get that rush defence absolutely pinpoint accurate, I think Ireland will struggle. And also if New Zealand, because this is the other area where Ireland struggle, is if teams get under their skins very quickly and just keep pressuring them, they struggle. Like when the Six Nations, as I said, against Wales and England, because you both got under their skins pretty quickly. and then they just didn't have a way back into the match really in either game. But I think based on the last two meetings they've had, I think New Zealand will be a lot more up for it than they were in those two, because I think they will be a lot more focused. But I think that's possibly what's going to see them through. But it could be a cracker. It could be a cracker of a match, because I think Ireland were coming good against Samoa, and as I said, they do have the knowledge of how to beat New Zealand. So I think a lot of it depends on New Zealand, and if New Zealand do really get under Ireland's skins early on, then it's going to be very difficult. If Ireland get a good start, then of course they've got a very good chance. But I think that first first half hour is going to be very key. I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight game. Personally, I think New Zealand will have enough to win and will win. Ireland, it is about, can Sexton and Murray control things? Can Stockdale get a lot of the ball? If Stockdale gets the ball and has his chip over the top, that can work really, really well for them. But I just think New Zealand are going to have a little bit too much in this one.
Yeah, I think the same. I think New Zealand will just... I think they'll just pip it by about 5 to 7 points. I think again, I think it depends how well Ireland start. Because I think if Ireland start poorly, then I think New Zealand will run away with it. But if they start well, then it will be a very tough game. And like I said, New Zealand get their defence right and they get their breakdown right against Ireland, because that's one area there where Ireland have really exposed New Zealand in the past couple of times they played them, is at the breakdown and at the drive-in maul. So if New Zealand can get that right, and if they can stop the drive-in mauls early, which is one of Ireland's strengths, then I think Ireland will really struggle, and they won't. I'm not sure if they'd have a way out of the New Zealand stranglehold that could happen. So I think, as I said, based on the last 2 years, I think New Zealand will get it right this time, and they will just win it. But I don't think it will be a massive margin unless Ireland start poorly.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So I think New Zealand to win this one and go through to the semi-finals
against England. Yeah, right. On to Sunday's games. Wales against France. What are your thoughts there? Excited? Nervous?
Well, I can only watch the first half because work starts then, which is really annoying. I changed my hours at work this week, so I missed the second half.
Got it, man.
Very annoyed about that. But Wales against France. Wales, last time they met, obviously in Paris. First half belonged to France. Screaming at the TV, couldn't believe we were playing so badly. Then came back in the second half, and French did what the French do a lot of the time and completely collapsed. And there's even been talks about them having a squabble and an argument in camp over different things that probably don't matter.
Again.
France. Half against Argentina. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Dupont, Untitled, Penaud just running rings around the Argentinian defence. The forwards were offloading. It was beautiful rugby. And then the second half happened. And that's kind of been how France have been over the World Cup. First half against Tonga looked okay. Second half, Tonga should probably have won that one. It's difficult to know it's so cliche, what France are going to turn up. It's such a cliche thing in rugby, but it's so true at the minute. I think this game is one step too far for this team. I think Wales' discipline, our organisation and our structure will be enough for us. I think that France should target the next World Cup. They've got a really good young team. As I said, Dupont and Tamak and Penaud are the three standout players, I'd say. Dupont especially, he's been brilliant. It's whether France can keep their heads, keep disciplined, and if they get the free-flowing rugby right, our blitz defence might not be able to deal with it, because what we've found, especially against Fiji, when we fly out the line, if teams can offload it and pass it quick and are quick, strong runners, they get round us. We've seen that that's a possibility. So France will be targeting that. I think we'll have enough to do it, though.
Yeah, I fully agree with most of what you said there. I have to say, though, I'm not sure about the you never know what you're going to get with France, because I see a team like that just, as the games go on, they either, I don't know if this is through fitness or boredom, whatever, they just seem to look bored by just, I mean, because they have moments where they can produce flashes of brilliance and like they can score a try just out of nothing or off a counter attack and and punish opposition team. But then, like when it actually comes, and they have moments as well where they can just chunk it up the middle and physically break the gain line and offload for fun. But in terms of actually when the going gets tough and they have to actually systematically break down the team and actually have to work hard, go through the phases, breaking down the team, they seem to just get bored. Like they just can't be arsed doing it, and that's their. I think that's going to be their downfall in this game. I think they could give Wales a good match in the first half, possibly if they sort of turn up with their heads on. But I think as the game goes on, I think the Wales being this astute team they are, I think if they're on it, they're a very astute team. I think they'll eventually wear the French down, and France will just get kind of bored with having to get back into the game, go through the phases, trying to break down that Welsh defence, and that's where I think Wales could possibly either run riot or punish them, because I think that's just what I think there. I think this French team look like they can have moments of brilliance, but they just look so bored out. I mean, against USA, if you watch that match, the amount of the times they're going through phases, they just look like they're almost on sleeping pills. It was like you seen Luis Picable chunk it up, and he can be a powerful player, but there's sometimes you're just watching, you could just look in his face, and he was just like.
Yeah.
Like they just look so bored, like just having to go through the structures of the whole thing. So I think in that sense, I don't think they're going to be that much different. I think they might be more motivated from the start, but as the game goes on, I think Wales will just have too much for them. And in my opinion, I'd say it's the easiest of the four quarterfinals to call, because I think albeit I will say I don't think Wales will run away with it by an awful lot of points, because truth be told, Wales they have good organisation and good discipline, but they don't score all that many tries. So I think most of your tries will either come off turnovers, or if you have a penalty advantage and someone kicks it over the top or along those lines, and I think you'll get most of your tries from there, and you score tries, and the rest of the time I think it'll be fairly astute. You get a penalty in France's half, and who is it playing as 10? Is it Bigger or Patchell, or do you know yet?
The team hasn't been announced yet, as far as I'm aware. I expect it to be Bigger. I think Patchell's done really well when he's come off the bench. Mm-hmm. I think Bigger actually suits the way we want to play against France. Mm-hmm. You need to be disciplined, you need to be organised, because France are going to look to chuck it about, try crazy things which probably don't work, but they're going to try it anyway because they want to.
Well, the thing is, when it does work, it can look brilliant, but
when it works, it's incredible. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Sorry, your sound cut out for a bit there. But yeah, no, when it does work and they're offloading well, they're really good. It's just when it kind of breaks down. That's what I'm trying to say. When it kind of breaks down, they have to go through the phases and actually work hard to create the holes in opposition defences. They just don't look like they can be bothered to do it. So, but yeah, and like I said, Wales, I think most of your points will come from if you get a penalty in France's half, you knock over the 3 points, keep chipping it over, keep putting the pressure up, and I think that will be enough to, get you over the line. And yeah, that's what I think as well. So I'd say Wales by about 10 to 15. What are you saying?
Oh wow! I wouldn't say that much. I'm saying 8 to 10 points personally. I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I'd love it to be 10 to 15 points. I'd take that, but I don't quite think it'll be that much. But Wales for the win, certainly. Yeah,
okay, fair enough. And now on to Japan against South Africa. This is shaping up to be a cracker, absolutely. Obviously, Japan, host nation, on fire. South Africa coming really good after their game against New Zealand, which they played pretty well in large parts as well. But what are your thoughts there? I think this is going to be a step too far for Japan, but I think they will make a good game out of it. What do you think?
Yeah, short answer, I think you're right. Japan, the only concern I'd have with this Japanese team is South Africa will look to dominate physically. If Japan can get quick ball, then they can create problems, absolutely. But I think the breakdown is going to be key. If South Africa slow that ball down, it's going to be very difficult for Japan to create anything. South Africa will just use their power game. They'll use their driving maul. They'll use their scrum. They'll win penalties at the scrum, at the driving maul, at the breakdown. They'll take their points. I think Faf de Klerk is going to be key in this game. If he can get round to the opposite scrum half and take him out as he does so often, that could be key to slowing Japanese ball down. I think South Africa will have a lot of the ball, and Japan will rely on counter-attack. I personally think it's a step too far for Japan. I think this South African team are, at the start of the World Cup, I said they were my second favourites to win the World Cup. I personally would still back them to get to the final. It's going to be pretty tough for Japan, but who knows? Memories of 2015 will be there. All the world, except for South Africans, wants Japan to win this one. The pressure is all on South Africa. It might be a magical night once again.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I think with regards to the scrum, actually, the Japan scrum has actually done pretty well. They did well against us, but the breakdown, I think that's where South Africa, this game could be won and lost, because against Scotland, I think that was one area we were slightly on top of them for the most part, was at the breakdown. We were very physical against them, and at times, especially when we started to play better, albeit we were 28-7 down, we started to give them problems there. But we know a team like South Africa, and sort of the big boys they've got up front, they're going to just be looking to absolutely smash them every clear out, absolutely drive them back whenever they can, and hitting every ruck. And I think the Japan style of game as well, I'm not sure they can, take it for 80 minutes. And I think it's just going to, in the end, wear them down. And then, of course, when South Africa get the ball, I mean, Japan's defence has been really, really good. But again, over, a long enough time for 80 minutes, because both sides will obviously have their purple patches in this match. But, mainly, just in broad terms, mainly it's going to be the physicality of South Africa that's going to decide this match, I think. How much can Japan cope with it for a sustained amount of time over an 80-minute period? That's really it. And I think it will be a step too far. I think South Africa will just win by a score, though, whether it's through a penalty, a drop goal, or a converted try. I think it will just be one score, but I do think South Africa will win.
Yeah, I think the likes of Astabeth, the Moulin, the Beast will all look to just power over the gain line, smash them at the breakdown. And hopefully, I'm not sure if Cheslin Colby is fit for this one, but I really hope so, because
he's lovely. Yeah, he's lovely to watch, isn't he? Yeah,
it's amazing to watch. He's just so the South African Shane Williams, because Shane Williams. So,
he looks a bit fit and slimmer than Shane Williams, though, I have to say. He's like, sort of just looks like he's got, and he looks a bit small. I have to say, he looks a bit smaller as well. He looks closer to sort of a really mini scrum half. But no, he's got great feet and great ability. So, I think we'll hope he's fit, obviously, because we want all the best players to be at the World Cup. So, yeah, if he's fit and South Africa can get on top up front, then it's going to be a tough time for Japan, definitely.
Yeah, I'm going to say Japan. Not quite going to win this one, but they'll have done their nation very proud. They've made so much interest in rugby, got so many people involved in the sport. But South Africa by a score for me as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. So, and then looking at that, it'll be likely England against New Zealand and Wales against South Africa semi-finals. I noticed you said in your video prediction you thought New Zealand and South Africa were going to win them. If it comes to that, at the moment it's only an if. Do you stand by that?
Oh, as a Welshman, my heart says we'll win it. Okay, but I just think the South African team, there's something special about them. I think New Zealand as well, we know how good they are. I probably would stick by that and see New Zealand against South Africa in the final. Yeah, I hate But yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Wales play South Africa, I wouldn't count them out, mainly just because of their good record against South Africa recently, and I thought last year actually it was a very competitive game, and Wales showed how to get the job done near the end, because that's one thing I think Wales can certainly take, if it comes to that, of course, can take confidence from, is they know how to get the job done and win games, even if they're not always playing very well. So that's something that definitely Wales could look to go into the semi-final. But if it comes to that, of course, because it's knockout rugby, it's sort of 80 minutes and could decide. But I think we're pretty much in agreement who we think is going to win the quarterfinals. So it'll be a cracking weekend. See how much time we've got. 55 minutes. That's pretty good. Anything else you want to add before we close?
I don't think of anything, but it's going to be a great weekend of rugby. We'll miss most of it because of work. Might have to pull a sickie. We'll see how it goes.
Hope your boss isn't watching this, but no, it's going to be a cracking weekend. In some ways, I'm a little bit glad. I don't want to say I'm glad Scotland not in it, but at least I can relax a little bit and just kind of enjoy the rugby more. I think we're going to close there. Hope you all have a great weekend of rugby. Thanks for being on, Brandon. Pleasure as always. And hopefully we'll do another one of these before the World Cup's out, or after the World Cup, depending on how things go. Understand we've both got our situations, etc. That's everything. I'll just finish up here. And thanks for watching, guys. Take care.
Yeah.